How about them Bears? They had a great lead, but I guess apparently they suck. They're so bad. I named my 0-4 fantasy team the Chicago Bears, because obviously I can't score points on my fantasy team. The Bears, for some reason, after halftime, decided not to score any more points. It's kind of a shame, in all honesty. Especially against the Broncos, literally the worst defense in the league. They can't score after halftime. Like, what is that, Josh?
Let's just roll the intro.
Yeah, so welcome back, everybody. Obviously, the Bears had a not so great second half of their football game, but we'll go a little bit more into the Broncos Bears game in just a second here. But um, besides that Bears game, how are you doing, Josh?
Um, I'm feeling pretty good, like with my fantasy teams. Won like
Mhm,
5 out of 6 this weekend, and the one I've lost to was to you, and I lost by
mhm.
0.75 points in this league. So to top off
Yeah.
all my misery on like Corstian rubbing it in that the Broncos beat the Bears in the fight for Caleb Williams. Like like we won that battle looks like, but like
Hmm.
what we know, like we Caleb Williams might not even join the Bears, so there's that. But
Hmm.
other than that, I'm alive. So so
Uh-huh.
doing good. Just frustrated that when the offense gets going, the defense can't stop a cold on a sunny
Mhm.
day, which is entirely crazy. I did not expect the Bears to blow that lead.
Mhm.
But doing fine otherwise. Can't complain, except for the
Yeah.
Bears.
Yeah. Good. Yeah. I mean, I'm just happy. I don't know. I'm conflicted about the Broncos. Obviously, tank for Caleb is partially on my mind, but at the same time, I'm happy that we beat the Bears of all teams. Granted, I'd rather have beaten the Raiders or something like that, but I'll take the wins where I can get them. But
Yeah, and
anyways, yeah.
speaking of Caleb Williams, like that USC like Colorado game was crazy.
Mhm.
Like you would think like USC would just go out and blow out Colorado the way they were playing and
Mhm.
Caleb was playing, but like credit to Colorado for staying in it. That was pretty noticeable.
Mhm. Yeah, this upcoming draft class for quarterbacks looks like it's gonna be pretty crazy with like if I think Shadur should technically, stay another year just with how loaded this class is. But if he does, join this class, I'm guessing he's going to be maybe like second, maybe early third round pick. But regardless, I'm still thinking that like potentially 7 quarterbacks go within the first 3 rounds of the draft. At least just from what we've seen from this, bunch of quarterbacks so far. But yeah, I mean, I mean, obviously, if you can't get Caleb Williams or Drake May, I guess who's your number one on the list of quarterbacks for the Bears if they do go quarterback in the draft?
That one's really tough. Personally, I'd rather like they keep Fields and
Hmm.
like try to build a system around him better. So like with the 2 first round picks, I want Brock Bowers and Marvin
Hmm.
Harrison. I feel like
Hmm.
when you add more talent around Fields to showcase like and grow from his deficiencies. But that's
Hmm.
a very unpopular take because this
Hmm.
is me kind of expressing confidence that the Bears will not have the number one pick by the time the season ends and they'll turn a
Hmm.
corner just like they did last year. But the way it's looking right now, it's not looking great. To answer your direct question though, either Shador or Bo Nix or Michael
Hmm.
Penix Jr. I think like any of them are guys you need to look at. I haven't
Hmm.
really delved into the quarterback class like that
Hmm.
deeply as well, so I will say that. But I really like the Quinn Ewers out of Texas. Like
Hmm.
he's really impressed me the past 2 years. Like
Yeah.
I really feel like they did beat Alabama this season, which was nice to see. But um, even last year, like the way he was playing before he got hurt against Alabama was very impressive to me.
Hmm.
And like for me, it's how do you do against a top tier competition that really, really stands out to me. I still remember everybody underrating Justin Fields at Ohio State
Hmm.
versus Clemson, and Justin Fields just like goes off ballistic like in that college
Hmm.
playoff game. So that kind of gives me hope for like what he is as a player. But obviously, for as good as he played and near perfect as he played yesterday, um, there's a lot that he could like improve upon, and I think he will. He is still in his third year, so can't
Hmm.
expect like the third year breakouts that I was hoping you would
Yeah.
have like happen instantaneously. But
Hmm.
excited to talk about Broncos and Bears and hear what you thought.
Yeah. So Broncos and Bears. Um, obviously, I had partially mixed feelings over the fact that like the Broncos suck so bad right now that like if we lose, it just gets us closer to that number one overall pick. But as a fan, obviously, I don't want to see my team lose ever, anyways. But yeah, I think the Broncos. I mean, their offense did what their offense has been doing pretty much all season so far, which is putting points up on the scoreboard, right? Like if
They're
the
not the
Bronco,
problem. They are not the problem on this team.
hmm yeah, like the defense has let up a ridiculous amount of points, and it's historically bad. But if you like literally put this Broncos offensive production on most other teams, they're probably having a winning record. I mean, like I've seen stat comparisons between Russell Wilson and Patrick Mahomes where they're near identical. I think this week, Russell Wilson technically surpassed Patrick Mahomes in terms of off like quarterback play, which um, even though we're 1-3, it makes me happy that Russell Wilson seems like he has at least a little bit of juice still left in the tank. Playing playing even with Patrick Mahomes, because I feel like it's a nice standard to have for your quarterback play. But
Yeah, I know I remember sending this to you off air, but Zach Wilson actually had like way better stats than Patrick Mahomes, and the wild part
mhm,
about that was like in a head-to-head matchup, nobody's ever had like fewer interceptions, more touchdowns, more passing yards, better passer
mhm,
rating, like any of those stats against Patrick Mahomes in college or the NFL until Zach
mhm,
Wilson played him yesterday. So
yeah,
that was just one thing I noticed that was wild. But to your
yeah,
point, I think the only problem with the offense is the penalties on the O line.
mhm,
And it's not just restricted to Mike McGlinchey. It's literally like everybody. I've
mhm,
seen everybody getting penalized. And that's probably the one thing this team can clean up on the offensive side from the ball. But you're right about the defense. It's historically bad.
mhm,
I think I was seeing one stat on the DBOA of the Broncos defense, and it's up there with any of the worst defenses. And we're talking about in the history of the NFL through 4 games,
mhm,
which is just crazy. I know you've been calling for Vance Joseph's head.
mhm,
Obviously, we don't take any pleasure in saying, "Oh, you got to fire this guy, you got to fire this dude or whatever." But I just look at when Patrick Surtain is getting beat, but like he is not even being placed in a position to be successful. I
mhm,
think that falls solely on coaching. And when your head coach is reacting
mhm,
like and like being fiery at you in the middle of a game on the sideline while you're trying to figure out your calls on the defensive end. Like
mhm,
that's a problem. That's a problem. You need to
yeah,
have your trust of the players and your coach, and I don't think they have it right now. Granted, Simmons is not playing, so like the
mhm,
back end could definitely use his help, but like there's a lot of holes on this defense that
mhm,
I think from a schematic point of view, it's been horrible, and they are
mhm,
fixable. It's just not being fixed.
yeah, yeah. Because I think I saw like it was maybe the last Bears offensive drive or second to last one. It was like 3rd and 10 or second. It's like a second or third and somewhat long, and there's Patrick Surtain lining up like in soft zone coverage. 10 yards off of DJ Moore or something, and I'm like,
Oh, you're talking about the crossing route, right?
I don't know. I think it was just like a comeback. It might have been a comeback route, but I mean, it happened multiple times throughout the game. But
Right.
like, there's plays where it's like, well, like, why on like a long yardage play, why are you giving up so much space to the wide receiver who's just going to get an easy catch and run? And like,
He's the one guy you got to press up and like stay on your hip on his hip like the entire time. So I agree with you there.
yeah, well, because I think previous head coaches have like instilled a lot of man coverage with the Broncos defensive system and just kind of letting, their front four do their thing while letting their guys play pretty instinctively. Whereas you have Vance Joseph, who's known to be calling some of having the highest blitz call rate and playing a lot of soft zone coverages, which obviously is a lot different than what the Broncos have run probably for the past, I don't know, like 8 years outside of the Vance Joseph coaching era. And so I think uh, I think that's where a lot of the issues do end up coming from for this Denver Broncos defense. And so hopefully, they just use him as the quote unquote Vance Joseph as the scapegoat kind of guy, and then at the end of the season they fire him and bring in someone hopefully more confident with running a defense, and then they do better next season. But yeah,
I mean,
it'll
they
be
still have
interesting.
time. It's only week 4, right? They can
Yeah.
definitely get a turnaround. Like you just need one win to turn things around,
Mhm.
and I think this is the game where like it'll definitely help the defense. Like you saw like different spots, like even like I don't want to say it's all on coaching because like Nick Benito sometimes like shoots gaps that he shouldn't.
Mhm.
and like there he made a great play on the fumble return for their touchdown, but like he's one guy I've noticed like scapegoated like throughout the game where like he's just like picking the wrong gaps, man, and not
Mhm.
like pursuing the ball well. So like that's just one example there. I
Mhm.
don't want to harp on the secondary too much because like
Mhm.
I think his name was Yander Yell or something like that, like
Oh
one of
yeah.
the safeties. Like that's a tall task for him to try and match up with like DJ Moore and help out Patrick Surtain and like Darnell Mooney. I was so glad to see him go off.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, that's what I have from the Broncos side. From the Bears
Mhm.
side, I was really impressed with their offense in the first half. Like, granted, I know what you're gonna say. It's the Broncos defense, right?
Mhm.
But I thought the play calling was more tailored to Justin Fields' strengths, and they did stuff within their control to help facilitate the big plays. And I think the
Mhm.
one thing is like coincidentally, they did less of like the play actions where Justin Fields has his back turned to the defense and like to turn around. I remember hearing that on the broadcast and like noticing that. I'm like, you're right. It's a lot of like pistol or like shotgun play actions where he's still scanning the full length of the defense, so he has vision. And
Mhm.
coincidentally, one of the problems he had was on the bootlegs where his back was turned, and that's when the fumble happened. I think
Mhm.
while that was not an ideal play call to like purposely have the free rusher out there and like trust Justin to make the decision, I think that's on Justin Fields because one, he could have just taken the sack, or two, he could have spotted a pre-snap that there was like where the free rusher is and like tried to like shorten his drops so he doesn't get put in put in a position where like he's like trying to get the ball out but he doesn't have enough time to react. So like
Mhm.
those are kind of like the little things that he needs to clean up on his end. But like overall, he's like whenever you have a chance to see the field and be decisive and like
Mhm.
actually not overthink, he played really well. I was impressed with him.
Mhm.
He gave me hope that like he's still the quarterback of the future and it's not on him.
Mhm. Yeah. And I know you said it too, but like I will talk about how the fact that it is the Broncos defense,
Oh, they're horrible. They're absolutely
like
horrible. This is the one get right game for their
the
offense. But
fact that the at least up until now this season, the only game the Bears offense has looked really good is against a team that allowed 70 points the week before. I feel like I hope like you I think you'd really like to see the Bears play well against the Commanders this upcoming week. I think that's who they're facing. But
right, Thursday night.
yeah, so I think yeah, you'd really hope that the Bears can play some good football there because if like after this week if the Commanders just go back and shut down the Bears offense again, then I think everybody starts continue to doubt that Bears offense and just think that oh the Broncos game was just the one-off fluke game that they'll have because it's the Broncos defense. But I mean like regardless, they did play well. Like I think it would have been an even worse sign to see that the Bears offense couldn't put up points against the Broncos defense because then everybody would have just said that this Bears offense is the most lost thing in the world. This could be the worst offense in NFL history type situation, but
Right, right.
they did manage to put up points, which at bare minimum is all you can ask. But
Like the
um,
pun there.
mhm.
um,
Yeah,
no, I won't like the defense. The Bears defense was really bad, especially in the second half overall. But I think the context is needed that the Bears were missing three of their starting cornerbacks when going up against the Broncos. So was I surprised that like the Broncos suddenly got a deep pass to Marvin Mims at the end of the call? No, because that was the open all game, and like that the Broncos just took their shot, like knowing we didn't have the personnel to match that.
hmm
And I've been saying this since the season started. The one weakness on the Bears is the pass rush. Um, granted, it was before Yannick Ngakwe was on the team in our team
hmm
previews, but even with Ngakwe, like the pass rush is not what you expected it to be.
hmm
Um, so like when you have that happen, then you have to allocate more resources to rush the passer, where it's like bringing
hmm
5 or 6 somehow, and that's just
yeah,
going to leave more weaknesses in their defense, especially when riddled in front. So
hmm
um, I know Kyler Gordon's planning on coming back soon. You hope Jalen Johnson comes back, and like Tevin Jenkins on the O line is going to be huge for them, especially when you're going up against the Washington front.
hmm
But yeah, I mean, um, there's the one get right game for the Bears offense. You hope to see it more often, but like
hmm
I won't even get mad at the fourth down call because that was supposed to be a read option play.
Mhm.
And I think the one thing I would get mad at is that they had Darnell Wright pulling rather than setting double teams to create a gap for Khalil Herbert
Mhm.
to go to. I think when you're pulling, that's when like you have to reach the linebackers or
Mhm.
defensive tackles that are left unblocked for that instance. And they like Darnell Wright just didn't reach him in time. So that was like that would probably be a bad technical aspect on the call, but like they did put it in Justin Fields' hands to keep it or take it. The
Mhm.
defensive end obviously played Fields, so he had to give it up to Herbert and got
Mhm.
stuffed. So um, that's that. It shouldn't have come down to blowing a 21-point lead, so I'm still salty about
Yeah.
that. But saw some positive signs from the offense as far as I
Mhm.
process that were massively improved from last week.
Mhm. Yeah. Well, we'll see how the rest of the season goes for these two teams. See, it's what these two. The Panthers kind of suck right now. Um, I all right, and then Cardinals technically, even though they beat the Cowboys like a week ago, but yeah, it'll be interesting to see the race for the number one overall pick in the draft this upcoming season. But um, next up we have our next little segment. We did a little bit last week of it, and this is our we call it the Give Me Five. And so, just like last week, we're both just have five players that we want to talk about that we have in our minds that we want the other one to talk about, and then we'll just give like a quick response, just about our thoughts on that specific player. So, I guess I'll go first with my first guy. Thoughts on Bijan Robinson.
Man, he's going to be a top 5 running back next year, if not by the end of this season. Did you see the moves he put on like
Hmm.
any single linebacker on the Jaguars? Like the one where he's like juking left, right, like stationary, and then he just plants hard, like when the linebacker didn't like take it, and then he shakes him out of his boots after that. That was insane. He made Ritter
Hmm.
look like an all-star QB every time he got targeted. Like there was one play he had like a one-handed catch when I was just like,
Hmm.
what kind of ball placement was that by Ritter? And he just got the first down from that. And like right now, that Falcons offense runs through three players pretty much. B. John Robinson, the running back, and I guess you put Tyler Algier in there as one person, because they've been the strength of that team. Then it's Drake London on the outside, and then it's B. John Robinson, the receiver. Those are the
Hmm.
three players, and like he's going to be the focal point of the Falcons' offense. Excited for him.
Hmm.
A little longer than I wanted it to be, but another
Yeah.
running back, Jaleel McLaughlin.
Yeah. A real surprise football player. I mean, like he did well in college, but he's really stepped up for the Broncos offense. He whenever he has the ball in his hands, he seems to be really close to making big plays happen. We've seen him have tons of 10-yard type carries, which has really been a big boost for the Broncos, especially with Javonte Williams still coming back from injury. I mean, he's played fine as well, but it's just nice having a third running back in that rotation to make things work for that Broncos rush attack. Next up, the other Falcon that I was talking about, Desmond Ritter.
Awful, absolutely awful. Like easily bottom five QB. Like he's the one reason, like why this offense is being held back, if at all. He had some nice plays, like the back shoulder to Drake London for the touchdown in London. I thought that was pretty cool. But if you're looking for a reason why like Kyle Pitts sucks, you're not gonna find it. The real reason is Ritter. It is not Arthur Smith like hating you or like using him in fantasy. Like the reason why John's producing is because Desmond Ritter like finds it easier to target him. Everybody knows that Jake London and Kyle Pitts are the real monster in the team, and they're going to allocate resources to stop them. But you like Ritter's just downright bad. Like he's just like I can't. He doesn't process the field well. Like he doesn't distinguish like zone coverages well. Like Jordan Love can do that, but look, he's also inconsistent and has a worse completion percentage. But I think Ritter is worse, like as
Mhm.
far as like processing, and like you can't have that as a team. Like that's Atlanta like has like one of the best like run blocking O lines, one of the best sets of weapons. Like they're set. They just need the quarterback to play. And like he's not that guy. I'm sorry.
Mhm.
Quarterback who is that guy, but I want to see like what you think about him is CJ Stroud.
Yeah, CJ Stroud is looking really good right now. I wouldn't be surprised at start of next year quarterback power rankings. he's up there somewhere in the top 10. Even higher within that top 10 range. But yeah, if he continues playing like this, he seems like he's going to be the likely, offensive rookie of the year player as of right now. Obviously, rest of the season, if he sucks, that won't happen. But right now, he looks really, really good. His connection with Nico Collins looks great. Tank Dell in that offense as well. He's looking really good. Damian Pierce, I think you'd hope to see a little bit better play from him, but CJ Stroud is keeping them in games, which I feel like he almost felt like the odd man out of the three quarterbacks going into this draft class. Everyone was talking about Bryce Young is Bryce Young. He was a great in college. I mean, CJ Stroud was too, but I think there was the hype of Bryce Young being the number one overall pick, and then there's the hype of Anthony Richardson being the freak athlete type player at the quarterback position. So people kind of just wrote off CJ Stroud as maybe he's going to be the bad one of the bunch, but obviously that's not the case right here. He's looking great. Yep. So then next up, I have another quarterback on my list. I have a lot of quarterbacks on my list actually, but next up I have Sam Howell.
Yeah. Quick note on CJ Stroud. He's that guy. Just because he's not an athlete in retrospect compared to Bryce Young and Anthony Richardson doesn't make him any less a quarterback. He's probably the best processor of the bunch. Sam Howell, really impressed with him. I am really impressed with him. Like, granted, like Buffalo might be one of the best defense in the NFL. We previewed them and we called them the best defense in the NFL. So Sam Howell struggling, I was not surprised. Like even Tua struggled yesterday against Sunday rather against the Buffalo Bills, but he looked impressive. He was matching Jalen Hurts stride for stride. I know both of us like caught the last 3 minutes of the game, but just the way he executed the gutsiness, like that's exactly what you want out of your quarterback. And had he come out a year earlier than he did, probably would have been a first round pick. Eric Bieniemy is pulling all the right strings right now, but give credit to Sam Howell. He's been absolutely executing. Yeah. Khalil Mack.
The sack attack is back. His name's Khalil Mack. He is playing so. I mean, yesterday was obviously right? No, for Sunday.
Sunday.
Yeah, I don't know why I mixed up these. Anyways, yeah, he looks
I
phenomenal. Obviously, he's a he's a monster on the field. It's probably good that Jimmy Garoppolo was out on his little, I think, concussion protocol for that week.
Yeah, he had a
Because
concussion.
obviously, if he wasn't, he'd definitely be on it this week. And so, obviously, I mean, again, it would be nice if the Bears had an elite pass rusher like Khalil Mack on their team to really bolster their defense. If only, man, like how much do you think you would take to trade for a guy like that? But anyways,
I don't know, maybe multiple first round picks.
Yeah.
Put our team in salary cap hell.
Yeah, just to give them away for like a bag of chips, right? But
yeah,
yeah, I mean, like, I feel like I don't know, people like wrote off Khalil Mack, even though he like really never, I guess, showed signs that he was bad per se. I think people just saw. I mean, towards the end of his stint with the Bears, he didn't have the sack numbers I think people wanted, and so people kind of forgot about it. But regardless, he was an elite run defender, and we're obviously seeing here that he can be a game wrecker. And he probably will continue. Maybe not. He's not going to be getting 6 a week from here on out, but we're going to probably see him, wreck a couple other games a few times throughout the rest of the season too.
agreed.
Yeah, and so then on my list, I also have a pass rusher to kind of match that, but I have Micah Parsons.
I'm not too worried. He doesn't have like the stats right now. He is dealing with an ankle injury, but like that didn't slow him down against the Patriots. Like that Cowboys defense as a whole is just like nasty. So like Micah's gonna get his. Like I think everyone's keying in on him because they know he is that dude. He's one of the best pass rushers in the NFL. We talked about it last week, but like there's like guys like 1 through 7 or 1 through 8 you can rank in any order, and Micah Parsons is among that. It's like he could be anywhere between like 8 and 1 on your list, and I wouldn't blink an eye. And I'm not worried about the statistics not being there. He is still that dude. He's not washed. Anthony Richardson.
Yeah, Anthony Richardson has been playing some good football. I think coaching has been really good for him. And I think that was like a huge key factor for me in terms of analyzing Anthony Richardson is, if he can get a good coaching staff around him that's willing to play into his strengths, he will. He can play good football, which I mean we're seeing here. My still main concern with him is his overall passing ability. I think I saw this like statistic where I think his like like average or like his target percentage or his accuracy or his accuracy on throws for like being like actually on target for the receiver was like it was like lower than Desmond Ritter and like it was like below 50% or something like that and I'm like I was really surprised to see that stat. I have it somewhere. I can't find it right now, but so obviously that's a huge thing that I think he needs to improve on. I think if he faces teams that have, I guess, more interception pick artist type players or players that are able to, I guess, maybe aren't as great on man to man and kind of leave some space, he might not end up benefiting them as well as it has been in the past. And so I think that while it's working for now, I think that um, maybe not this season, but next season, you really hope that he can develop as, or at least take the next step as a passer. But overall, he looks like a fun football player right now. He's having fun. His team's seemingly doing well too. So I'm excited
One thing on him,
as well.
like if you have Aaron Donald barreling at you, about to like throw you onto the turf, and you attempt a jump pass 40 yards down the field
Hmm.
and complete it, like I'm sorry, I think he's a
Hmm.
star in the making. I'm
Hmm.
just like I tried telling you all pre-draft. Of course, I know you were a little less high on him, but you still
Hmm.
saw the potential there.
Hmm.
Like I think it's showing itself this season.
Hmm. Yeah. Um. Then for my last guy, I think I have on my list is again another quarterback, Brock Purdy.
Not a system QB. I'm tired of hearing that. I think he's more than that, and I think he's proven like he's a great processor and a decision maker.
Hmm.
That doesn't make him a system QB. Yes, does he have Christian McCaffrey who went off? Yes. Does he have George Kittle? Yes. Does he have Debo Samuel? Yes. Does he have Brandon Ayuk? Yes. Does that matter? No, because he puts everybody in situations to thrive as a quarterback, and that's what your primary job is to
Hmm.
do. I like I have no questions about him, what he can do for that offense. Only questions I've had since the start of the season is his elbow going to be okay? And
Hmm.
clearly, like it's not affecting him that much.
Hmm.
Okay, my last guy, kind of a last minute ad here, really showing on Monday night. Devon Witherspoon, cornerback of the Seahawks.
Yeah. It looks. I mean, as the season goes, he's looking like a phenomenal pick to first round pick for that Seattle Seahawks defense. I mean, there's a bunch of great cornerbacks in this class, I think. And I mean, a lot of them have played really good football already, but um, yeah, I think. I mean, obviously he balled out. He had sacks and interceptions coming from the cornerback position, and I'm like, this guy's got that dog in him. Like he can ball out, and the fact that the Seahawks already have their other main guy with Tariq Woolen on the other side. It's seeming like the Seahawks are really putting together another elite secondary unit to have. Obviously, it's not going to be the Legion of Boom. It's a different type of player class, but it's a really good secondary unit, and I think that this group of players can really help carry this defense, or just carry the team as a whole, especially with Geno Smith maybe not playing as hot as he was last season. Plus, I know he got hurt for like a drive or two, I think, during
Right.
last night's game. But I think that regardless of what they do with the offense in the next couple seasons, this defense, especially with Devin Witherspoon, is going to be a nice unit to just watch in general.
Did you know the pick six he had was actually the first one he's ever had, like in college or NFL?
I did not know that. No,
No,
that's
and
really
it
cool.
went, and the Giants would have made that a one possession game had it went through.
Hmm.
It shows like what kind of he was everywhere last night.
Yeah.
Um, okay, I want to talk
Okay.
about the rest of the week 4 games.
Yeah, let's talk about them. Starting off with the Lions and Packers game. Um, I wasn't able to catch too much of it. I know it was David Montgomery, I think, came back from his injury this last week for them, I think. Um, but I guess you being a Bears fan and the NFC North fan, I'm assuming you paid a little bit more attention than I did to the game.
Yeah, I watched the entire game. Dave Montgomery, like nobody knew like whether he was gonna play or not for sure. Like I know they're ruling him out like a couple hours before, and then last minute he was playing. He was rock solid, but I think the real
Mhm.
story is like how dominating Detroit's line is. Like Packers have
Mhm.
designed themselves to have a really good defensive line and offensive line themselves. But I think you saw there were levels of this between like Detroit and like Green Bay. The real story is how well those lines played on both sides of the ball.
Mhm.
Um, and I think the one key difference you saw in like why Jordan Love struggled is the Lions ran a lot of man coverage. It seems like Jordan Love,
Mhm.
for some reason, is a better like zone thrower than like
Mhm.
a man coverage thrower at this
Mhm.
stage of his development, which is usually not the case when you see in quarterback play. But the Lions just harassed him, man.
Mhm.
And like you could tell like they controlled the game from start to finish.
Mhm.
Um, you saw a little bit of a comeback sneak in by the Packers there, but like the Lions shut that down quick. Running game was on fleek. Well, Amon-Ra St. Brown got hot
Mhm.
early. Laporta looks like an amazing find for them, one of the
He
best tight
does,
ends
yeah.
in that class. Like he looks absolute. I know like he was in my top three when we were
Mhm.
like ranking tight ends, and you were high on him as well. But he looks absolutely amazing. He might be the second or third option. We'll see when Jameson Williams comes in. But once like Jared Goff trusts you, like he trusts you. So
Mhm.
I don't think he's
Mhm.
gonna have any falling off, like unless
Yeah.
injury happens. Knock on wood.
Mhm.
Um, I don't really mind how Jameer Gibbs is being used right now. I
Mhm.
know a lot of people want him to be used as like an RB1. Like that's just doesn't make sense for their offense. Like their offense thrives on having like two backs being successful.
Mhm.
So that's not to say that Jameer Gibbs can't post RB1 numbers. He certainly has the talent to do so with the touches he has. But like he's not like don't expect him to have like 20 carries a game. Like just not
Yeah.
sustainable. So
Mhm.
those are kind of the insights I took away from the game. Very exciting though to see
Mhm.
Christian Watson back, Aaron Jones back, and see how that all plays out.
Yeah. Yeah, I wasn't able to, like I said earlier, I wasn't able to catch the game, but I guess a few things I technically noticed, I guess, was obviously it is nice to have Christian Watson back. I know he was on a snap count this last week. And so, hopefully Luke Musgrave's back for I think he had a concussion in the game. So
Yeah,
hopefully
he did.
hopefully he's back so that the offense is really back at full power. I guess a thing that I had question marks now throughout, I guess, the course of the season was how good really is AJ Dillon? Because obviously, I think before the season, everybody considered him like he could be a starter literally anywhere else in the NFL. It just happens to be behind Aaron Jones. And obviously, Aaron Jones this last week, he wasn't necessarily that great. But even in his absence, AJ Dillon hasn't necessarily put up like the numbers and the stats that you wanted to. He feels almost slower than he did last season, despite being like, what, 25, 20? Like, how old is he?
I have no idea if I can do a
But
quick Google search. Um,
yeah.
AJ Dillon is 25 years old, right on the money there. But he's looked
That's.
extremely disappointing. I agree with you. Like last year, he had a lot more swing to his step. He wasn't just a power runner. I've
Mhm.
been extremely disappointed in what I've seen from him.
Yeah, because like I felt like I had Aaron Jones in one of my fantasy leagues, right? And like after he got hurt, I was like, dang, I wish I had AJ Dillon. And then AJ Dillon doesn't do like anything at all in his absence, and I'm like, I'm actually kind of glad I didn't get AJ Dillon in my drafts. But um, so I think that was a big thing. But one positive I guess I really liked from the Packers, just as a general thing, I think was Romeo Dubs. He just played pretty good football. Uh, you know, these past couple weeks, especially being, I guess, the de facto number one for this Packers offense while
He looks a lot
Watson's been
better,
out.
a lot
Yeah,
better than he did last year.
yeah, and then the issue is, I guess, now is Jaden Reed. I mean, he's having a little bit of the drops issues, but obviously we've seen Dubs kind of fix that up, and so maybe Jaden Reed will just, he'll step up next season, and all of a sudden next year Packers will have a three-headed monster from that wide receiver group. But that's kind of
Yeah,
what,
Christian Watson
yeah.
just got back too, so like, I didn't expect him to have like a blow up game on his first
Hmm.
game back, but
Hmm.
he's I think he's number one on that offense personally. But
Yeah,
like, if him and Dobbs are kind of like Ridley and Kirk, like alternating that roles, I don't really mind.
yeah. Yeah, so both teams I think have moderately I mean, I think the Lions have more of a promising future, but I think both teams do have good things to look forward to throughout the rest of the season and going into the next couple seasons as well. But um, the next game I guess we can go over is the Raiders and the Chargers game right here. I was only able to catch tidbits of this game. I liked Aiden O'Connell in preseason, and so obviously he had his first NFL start during this game, so I was a little bit interested to see how he played. And at least me personally, it feels like, I mean, he played just about as well as you could expect for like a fifth round rookie quarterback in a so-so team, I guess, where I mean, I think Devontae Adams, he got hurt partway through the game, and so obviously he missed out on him for a little bit. But I think for all it's worth for it being his first start with like I guess the team that he has around him, I thought it looked fairly decent. Obviously, Josh Jacobs had his best game of the year, I think. Uh, I mean, but like Chargers, they looked phenomenal, firing on all cylinders here, both on offense and defense. But was there any other things that you, I guess, noticed about the game here?
I think you touched upon it earlier. Khalil Mack is a monster. He's not washed.
Mm-hmm.
I think that was made really loud and clear. Um, also, like just hoping for the health of Justin Herbert.
Mm-hmm.
I think he suffered like a injury to his finger, like his middle
Mm-hmm.
finger. I think from a Max Crosby face mask or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Where his hand got stuck in Max Crosby's face mask. I think that's what I've heard. I didn't really
Mm-hmm.
watch this game too much, but from what I've seen, it's like you can't expect too much out of O'Connell. He's like kind of one of
Mm-hmm.
those development guys. He's like really really smart. Like from like
Mm-hmm.
draft interviews, from what I've seen, like he knows what he's looking at. It's just kind of he doesn't have the athletic ability like that the
Mm-hmm.
top tier guys have. So like he has to make up for it with the IQ.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Yeah.
I think he might be better than Jimmy G. Honestly, if I'm the Raiders, I'm kind of like
Mm-hmm.
seeing how the next 3 games go, and then if
Mm-hmm.
they end up being what we think we thought of the Raiders, I would hand it over to AJ McConnell and see what you got.
Mm-hmm.
Aiden McConnell
Yeah.
rather. Sorry.
Yeah. Yeah, because they did give him the start over Brian Hoyer, who was like the technical backup behind Jimmy Garoppolo while Jimmy Garoppolo was healthy. And so the fact that, they really do, I guess, see O'Connell as, their, I guess, quarterback project. And then if, Garoppolo can't play, but in the case of emergency quarterback play that you need, it seems like, you know, Brian Hoyer is probably that guy. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see. Hopefully he doesn't ever actually be that great because obviously I hate the Raiders. But if he's just an average guy for my fantasy team, I guess I'll be okay with him. But see, there's a fun little matchup this week too. Across the ocean here, we had the Jaguars and the Falcons.
Right,
Um,
Jaguars are going to be facing the Bills this weekend, so
mhm,
also against across the pond. So I think they're
mhm,
officially London's team. It was good to see
mhm,
Drake London get a touchdown in London. That was the one thing I was looking forward to. But
yeah.
other than my Ritter spiel on that, like Bijan looked amazing. Kyle Pitts, like I just feel bad for him.
Mhm,
Drake London, I also feel bad for him despite having a touchdown. Um,
mhm,
but I think the biggest story is like did, what happened to Calvin Ridley? Like, I know you were high on Calvin Ridley before the season
mhm,
starts. Um, I thought it would be more of like a 1A, 1B situation, but I certainly didn't
mhm,
see like Christian Kirk dominating like the amount of targets he did in this game.
mhm,
And he has been for the past couple of weeks now. That was something I wasn't expecting to see, but I think you saw the Jaguars have a lot of success going to their second and tertiary playmakers in Kirk and
mhm,
Ingram. Um, and I think that really spearheaded because if you notice the Ridley touchdown, it was on a busted coverage where like it wasn't
mhm,
communicated on the zones and stuff. Other than that, he just had like one target, and that was just like surprising for the primary receiver for me. But
mhm,
Jaguars offense looks like a well-oiled machine. Not too many questions about that. Their defense looks like it's back, so pretty excited about that. Um, Falcons, I'm sorry, man. I'm sorry. You have the team right there. You have the team. You just need to
mhm.
upgrade on the quarterback.
Yeah, Falcons definitely seem like they're a team in the quarterback running. Luckily, this upcoming class seems like there's going to be a lot of guys available, so I guess unless number one overall pick's probably going to get Caleb Williams, but outside of that, I feel like a lot of teams will have a decent amount of say of like who they want, who they're preferring, and who they're going to end up drafting in this uh, 2024 draft class, which it's still far away. So anything can really, Ritter could theoretically develop throughout the season, but
Just look at Zach Wilson from Sunday night.
yeah, I think regardless though, I think the only way the Falcons don't go for a quarterback in the offseason is if Desmond Ritter plays absolutely lights out the rest of the year. Even if he plays okay the rest of the season, I think they'll be in the running for a quarterback in the upcoming draft. But yeah, Falcons. Ritter sucks.
They had a chance to get Lamar Jackson this summer, and they didn't take it.
Yeah, imagine that offense. Like that would have been crazy. Like I feel like the draft haul would have been worth. Like looking back in like retrospect right now, like if I was the Falcons, a couple first round picks would have been. I would have been completely okay with that. Plus, I'd probably send Desmond Ritter just as part of the package. You may even lose. I don't know. You could probably trade like a decent offense or defensive player in that package as well, and still keep your main core of your three young offensive superstars. And I think the Falcons would be a lot different of a team right now with Lamar Jackson here. But obviously, the past is in the past. Lamar's playing pretty good with the Ravens right now still.
Ravens.
So yeah, and then they got him for a while too. So it'll be fun to, I guess, watch the Ravens. But our next game that we have here now is unless you have something else you want to add to this game.
Nope. Let's talk Commanders and Eagles.
Okay. Yeah, I saw a lot of great things from both teams in this game. Um, Obviously, AJ Brown was absolutely ridiculous in this game. And we talked about it in the past as well. Not to panic about AJ Brown and his production. Like he was getting the targets, he was getting a few unlucky like plays called back, or just unfortunate situations where he really just missed out on having a big game. And so we see it right here where um, the Eagles, it is AJ Brown's turn to be the main guy in the offense that game. So that's great from there. And then Sam Howell, I think he played really well. That last drive was pretty incredible from him. There was like the fact that it's his first like real year starting, and the fact that he's able to face pressure of coming back against the Eagles and bringing it into overtime with like literally time running out was pretty incredible to see by him. And so um, I'm happy for him. Again, this is one of the teams that we were both saying that they're a lot better than we thought their record will be, and we're seeing this quite literally firsthand right now.
Yeah, their schedule is just absolutely brutal. Like,
Hmm.
as a Bears fan, like their matchup on Thursday is probably their best game in a while
Hmm.
that they've had in terms of competition. So I hope they lose the Bears, just being a Bears fan, but I would not be surprised if they win. They're that talented.
Hmm.
I think this game for the Eagles is about AJ Brown and Jake Elliott. Like
Hmm.
when it comes down to it, like both are just in clutch. Like Jake Elliott had so many clutch field goals. Like AJ Brown just dominated everybody. And like you mentioned, there's a reason why you hold on to guys like him if you're in a fantasy owner situation, or you don't let them go in a trade, because they can put any blow up games, any moment, any week, and you want to be having that on your team rather than not. For the Eagles, you rather have that on your team rather than not, because Washington's defense is crazy. It is
Hmm.
absolutely crazy from top to bottom. Like as much as we drag on the Fords pick, like their defense is still really, really good.
Yeah, and Forbes has been playing good quite literally all season. Obviously, the Eagles
Right.
lit up them, but like Forbes has been making plays. Um, like again, his only real knock was just being kind of undersized, but teams knew that going into the draft, and he just had insane, rangy playmaking ability at that cornerback position. And so there's the whole argument of like, oh, you could have drafted this cornerback, you could have drafted this cornerback, you could have drafted him later. But looking back on at least these first 4 weeks of the NFL right now, I feel like it's pretty easy to justify this Forbes pick at that first round spot, especially the fact that he's gelling really well with this defense, at least as of now.
Right.
But so obviously a couple blowouts this week that made me happy. Starting off with this Bills Dolphins game, it was nice seeing the Dolphins only put up 20 points and getting blown out. Kind of reminds me of another game involving the Dolphins, but Uh, yeah. Within this, obviously, this kind of just showcases that Bills really are a top dog in the AFC. I think a somewhat rocky start with the Bills kind of led people to think that, oh, maybe this is their fall off year. And I do think that the Bills do sometimes lose in embarrassing fashion, more often than I think Bills fans would like it to happen. But games like this showcase that Bills really can win any game that they're in, which not a lot of other teams can necessarily say. And so if the Bills here, they shut down the Dolphins despite A-Chain having a phenomenal week still this week. But what were your, I guess, insights from this game?
Yeah, I'm not surprised. Like
Hmm.
I've been I think I've had the Bills like as my Super Bowl pick like for the past like 3 years and it's never panned out. But this is the kind of games why. Like they can shut down anybody, like no matter how tough the challenge is, like when they put their minds to it.
Hmm.
And I think a one key situation is like as like a football geek I saw is Tua loves to anticipate throws like in the
Hmm.
RPO game and with a speed motion, and it was killing every single team. What the Bills said was literally, we're going to maintain our gap integrity. Just because you have Tyreek Hill going on a jet motion doesn't mean we're going to follow him. We're going to stick on the tight end because we know that the motion creates space for the tight end to curl around and get the
Hmm.
catch. But the Bills said, no, we're not going to do that. We're going to stick on the tight end and we're going to challenge our receivers.
Hmm.
Obviously, you feel for Tre'Davious White. What a
Hmm.
devastating injury after
Yeah.
he just came back from an ACL injury. But I want to keep this in the main point of Tua anticipatory throws came back to bite him,
Hmm.
like in this game in particular, because the Bills didn't take the bait from the Dolphins and they instead baited Tua to make throws he shouldn't. So they
Hmm.
would purposely cover deep, knowing Tua would go short when he sees this, and then slam the door shut immediately because they knew the flat catch was coming, the flat route catch was coming, and they'd shut that down. So they would bait Tua to make throws they want him to make
Hmm.
and play defense that way. And they kind of got two on a couple of those where like the safeties drop in, but he's like faced one way, and then all of a sudden he just flips a different direction post snap. And
Hmm.
like Tua didn't read that in time. I think a guy like Tom Brady would be able to see that. But like even so, this is not a knock on Tua. Like most
Hmm.
quarterbacks would make that mistake.
Hmm.
It's just a matter of like Bills are that like complex of a defense where like you gotta really sit here and say
Hmm.
this is a reason like they're one of the top AFC contenders.
Yeah.
Dolphins still are too. It's just a matter of like trying to figure
Hmm.
out how to solve that when the Bills do that, and I think they will on the second time they meet.
Yeah, and there will be like good defenses that the Dolphins will be able to carve up. It just happens that the Bills, in this game of football chess, that the Bills have, the right openings, I guess, to shut
That's
down
exactly what it is. That was a
just this
great way to
style of
summarize that.
offense. Whereas, there'll be teams that will be able to carve up this Bills defense just in terms of how how the offensive schemes are built and how their own defensive schemes are built. But so while obviously the Dolphins did get killed this week by the Bills. I still, I still think that the Dolphins will still have a top performing offense the rest of the season. And I mean, 20 points isn't even bad per se. I mean, like,
That's really good.
I mean, like, I don't have to look back at all the scores of the week, but I'm sure there's a fair amount of games that the with 20 points that the Dolphins win here because I'm just gonna look real quick. There's one, two, three, four, five, six, 7, 8, 9, 10. There were 10 teams in the league this week that scored less than 20 points, and there was two teams that scored exactly 20 points. And so, but that's like 12 teams that you're tying or beating at least out of what the 31 teams I guess they could theoretically be facing, which obviously it's not awful to have. Broncos last season, if they scored 18 points a week last year
They
on
would win.
average, they'd have a winning record. So, I mean, Dolphins, you got blown out, but it's not the end of the world for you yet. But a team that got more embarrassingly blown out this past week was the Patriots as they faced the Dallas Cowboys. Cowboys are a nice team to own in fantasy right now for your defense. I picked them up in one of my leagues, and they've been carrying me pretty nicely. But um, yeah, I think Yeah, Cowboys, they're just one of those teams, like I said at the beginning of the year, they could win a lot of games and they'll lose a lot of stupid games. It's just like it's weird flux. And this Patriots team, obviously, I mean, they just don't seem really good right now. They feel like pretty disjointed, at least to me right now. But yeah, I think yeah, Cowboys they should be playing good football, and we see it right here. They have a lot of good pieces both on offense and defense. But I guess what are the struggling points you see with the Patriots here?
Mac Jones making decisions he shouldn't make, and
Hmm.
like he's he was way he was way better about this his rookie year than he is now.
Hmm.
And but I think I look at the two defensive touchdowns that like it reminded me of the Giants game against the Cowboys, where once those Cowboys got like one
Hmm.
defensive like play, like turnover or like block kick or something like that, they just like open the floodgates and they can do that in a hurry. So that's
Hmm.
the one thing you got to watch out for with them. But like Mac Jones throwing a ball across his body to like on a shallow region on the other side of the field is just stupid. Like,
Hmm.
what do you think is gonna happen? Like, of course the defense has enough time to pick it off and run back the other way. This is
Hmm.
not Mahomes. Like when Mahomes throws it across his body, he's not throwing it across the other side of the field.
Hmm.
And he did that twice in this drive. Like one time, thankfully, it got completed, but like the second time, it got picked off. Like it's like, why would you try to do
Hmm.
that twice? And then he didn't have two hands on the football when he was trying to scramble and escape the pocket, and
Hmm.
that led to the fumble six. But I think that and the combination of not supporting Stevenson enough as far as like the like double teams and like helping him out is like really what's driving this offense. Like to have the mistakes they did yesterday. Combine that with their lack of a wide receiver one right now.
Hmm.
It's literally I think their best receiving threat is Hunter Henry in that offense.
Yeah,
Like
Henry.
Demario
Yeah.
Douglas does some good things. Like Juju Smith Schuster can do some things, but like you need a number one across from him to do that.
Hmm.
Devontae Parker has like the occasional one or two games that he's really good. But like
Hmm.
there's nobody consistently from the outside where you're just like 3rd and 11, who am I going to? They don't have
Hmm.
that on the team. And we previewed this like before the season started, saying this is gonna be like a situation you have to monitor with the
Hmm.
Patriots.
Yeah. Yeah. It's looking like Kendrick Bourne is like their most consistently good receiver
That's the guy. Yeah.
on their offense. But like even then, it's like, are are you looking at Kendrick Bourne like a wide receiver one? I don't think really anybody. No, like he's not a guy you have to like necessarily scheme around. I mean, he's like a decent wide receiver, but he's not one of those guys that you're like, oh, always make sure to know where Kendrick Bourne is on the field. Whereas almost every other team, I feel like you can pinpoint maybe a guy or two of saying like, oh, make sure you know where Travis Kelsey is. Make sure you know even where DJ Moore is. Know where uh I'm thinking of even like
Jamar, AJ Brown, Justin Jefferson, Keenan,
yeah even with like the
Boys.
Bengals not playing good, it's like you always want to know where Jamar is. Seahawks always know where DK. There's guys on every offense that varying levels of skill per se, but like there's guys that typically you're like, oh, make sure you know where that guy is. But with like the Patriots, almost like make sure you know where Hunter Henry is. Where it's like, sure, he's a good tight end, but like, is that really the guy that you're gonna be like, oh, this is our focal point? Like, no, he's not gonna be your focal point.
He's
So,
not being used that way.
hmm.
But there's another hunter I would trade for if I was the Patriots that I think can be the wide receiver one
Hmm.
on that team. That's Hunter Renfro. Like you can get him for reasonable
Hmm.
compensation and he will play better than that.
Hmm.
Like he's a wide receiver one that fits perfectly what the Patriots are trying to do. Strangely enough, the Raiders aren't doing that, despite having the same system. And excuse me, I'm gonna escape out here a little bit, disappear. But
Hmm.
with like Hunter Renfro, he can win like on any type of like two-way goes, and that can be your offense from time to time to create more space. And I
Hmm.
think the Patriots need a guy like him to open everything up. I really do. I don't think it requires like going out and looking for like a frustrated player,
Hmm.
aka Chase Claypool, or something like
Yeah.
that to try and address it. Because I certainly don't think that would be the case. I don't think you need a tank for Marvin Harrison necessarily. With
Hmm.
this offense, like if you get a guy like Hunter Renfro who fits the Julian Edelman, Wes Welker type role, like that's going to be perfect for what they try to do.
Hmm. Yeah. Um. Yeah, I had a lot of high expectations for Mac Jones this upcoming season. I thought this could be the year that he kind of steps up as a quarterback. But obviously, there's I guess other factors within this team that I think aren't necessarily leading to success. But I think that if anything, he's another one of those quarterbacks that I think would benefit from a scenery change. um, where like he has shown that he could play decent football here and there, but I feel like this Patriot system just doesn't feel like it's great for him, I guess.
Okay.
um, yeah, and like I feel like the offensive system, at least just because they've had Brady for so long, is like pretty reliant on a quarterback that's really good at like being able to read the defense and at least take what's given to him. But with Mac Jones, it seems like it's a lot more like he's just instinctively making plays based off what he feels comfortable doing rather than again doing something. I mean, obviously no one's gonna be Brady, but playing with what the defense gives to him. And I think we see that with a lot of the other elite quarter. I mean, you even see this with like Brock Purdy, right? Where Brock Purdy he lacks a lot of like I guess the physical talent that you'd expect from elite quarterbacks, but uh and obviously he has great talent around him, but he's still able to like he makes plays knowing what his players are capable of, and takes what the defense gives him to make plays and be a successful quarterback. Because I mean, I feel like if you put Brock Purdy on the Patriots, he probably isn't going to have the same success he's had on the 49ers, but I do think that he'd do a better job at limiting turnovers and at least like implementing and getting the ball to the right guys at the right time, despite maybe not having the same amount of breakaway plays that the 49ers have.
Fair. I know we're running out of time, so I'll quickly like cover these two games
Mm-hmm.
since I've watched them. Chiefs and Jets. I don't really have too many. Did I misspell Chiefs there? Oh my goodness.
Uh, I gotta check. I don't think you did. Did you?
Nope. Nope. I'm just seeing
Yeah.
things being dyslexic. But um,
Yeah.
all joking aside, um, I don't really have too many issues with the Chiefs. Like they ran up against like a great defense with momentum at home because Zach Wilson had his homecoming essentially. He
hmm
looked completely different than how he was
hmm
drafted or how he played last season. And I think it's a credit for like him truly learning under Rodgers, new scheme, like benefiting him, like just going out there and firing and not hesitating. I think all of those things, like if you watch Hard Knocks and you watch how like Aaron Rodgers said, okay, I literally have two progressions and then I try to make a move and make something happen. And you see like Zach Wilson simplifying it to that. Like first read, second read, check down, not there, scramble.
hmm
And I think for Zach Wilson, that works out great for him. Granted, without the one fumble, he would have had like a perfect night. But
hmm
considering what we've seen all of last season, this is significantly good for the Jets. And I don't think they're going to make the playoffs like playing like this, like at this point in the season. But I think they can make it interesting. I think they can make something happen out of that. So I was really happy to see Zach Wilson there. Any quick thoughts on this?
Yeah. I think we saw another case of the Chiefs and the refs being best friends during that game. And like, see, my gripe with Sauce Gardner, right, was the fact that he gets away with quite a lot of like just grabby plays, and like I feel like this, kind of just like the Jets in general. I feel like,
That's his game. Yeah.
and so, but I was like, the Jets are going to get away with this until they face a team that the refs favor more. And so, we see a case where the Chiefs are probably the most favored ref team. I feel like to an extent, refs call certain penalties a lot more on certain teams and vice versa, and whatnot.
Okay.
I think we see the example, like Garrett Bowles throughout his career. I mean, sure, he had a holding problem to an extent, but I feel like it was certainly overblown where refs certainly paid attention to him early on in his career in terms of his holding penalties, and that ended up affecting him negatively for quite a long time until he had his breakout. You know, like 5 years ago. I don't remember exactly how long ago it was, but we see this again with the Chiefs. I think that the Chiefs certainly do get a fair amount of calls, I think, in the benefit for them. We saw this in the Super Bowl, where a play that we've seen countless times throughout the season that wouldn't get called gets called against the Eagles, which ends up costing them the Super Bowl. We see here the Jets are they're playing phenomenal football, and then an untimely penalty call happens where it's like typically like we've seen it throughout the rest of the week where we've seen worse PI or so those defensive back penalties that don't get called, but then you see a situation right here where because it is against the Chiefs, it feels like is it because it's against the Chiefs or is it because the refs decided to call it? It's kind of like a tricky situation there where
Yeah, and I think the way they're calling the game, all game, like to have that call in that moment was just like, okay. Like I would have loved to see Zach Wilson with one more chance like that. Like how does he respond from the fumble? Like just out of the heart.
hmm
But like I agree with you because just solely based on the way they were calling the game, I don't necessarily think they like favor the Chiefs like that. Like where it's just like, oh, it's just like the refs and like that in serious moments. But like it does make you think like, oh, that's a fairly convenient call at a convenient
hmm
time, like where the Jets can do nothing about it. You seen like Robert Saleh was just like
hmm
furious. Like he was just like running up and down the sideline. He got like the text and like
hmm
football, if you will, with extra flags and stuff.
Yeah,
But
because
yeah.
it's like if that happens in the middle of the game and like it results into a score for the Chiefs, and it's like, well, it sucks, but like you have the time to make up for it. But at that stage of the game, it's like, well, this call, like the penalty calls the game, where and it's like it turns into a situation where like the rest of the game doesn't really matter because this penalty again changes the.
The real problem is there's no accountability for like bad penalties or bad
hmm
calls. Like that's
Yeah.
like what are the repercussions of making a bad call? I haven't seen it. Like from the ref side of
hmm
it. Like
Yeah.
for the teams that are affected by it, obviously there is
hmm
repercussions. But I'm talking about from like the
hmm
refs, like what
Yeah.
penalties do they face? Like
Yeah.
when they
Not
make
really
bad
any.
calls and bad
Yeah.
decisions. Like not that's
hmm
available to the public. We don't know.
hmm
It's just a couple things to take away from there. So
hmm
we'll wrap up with Seahawks and Giants and then get your Thursday night football previews
hmm
there. But yeah, I never thought Daniel Jones was top 10 QB. These are the types of games why. Like, okay, yes, they didn't have Andrew Thomas, but like, there's like certain plays and certain like variables in his control where I think Daniel Jones just like you want to like I had him going like as a top 10 QB this season because of what was
hmm
added around him and how he could elevate the team, but you don't see him doing that with this with like any of the players.
hmm
The one thing he's got going for him is his running ability. But like until you can win from the pocket and showcase pocket awareness, like I don't see true growth as a passer there. Like you still see him fumbling the ball
hmm
like when he's in the pocket. Like I think he has like 24 over the course of 4 seasons,
hmm
which is like the most by any quarterback in that time span. And when you see the same issues plague a player and he's not like looking to address that, that's when I see the signs where
hmm
okay, this is not a player who I could see being a top 10 QB in the future.
hmm Yeah, I think yeah, certain some blame I think is definitely on him, but also they didn't have Saquon. Like Saquon is
That's a huge
easily
piece.
the focal point of your offense. Plus, giving up 11 sacks. Sure, you can count even if you counted half the sacks onto Daniel Jones himself. That still leaves like 5.5 sacks on the rest of the team, and I feel like that's it's pretty inexcusable for an offensive line to allow, you know, 5, 6 sacks on a quarterback, especially one who's known to have a fumbling issue. Like,
And they invested in this offensive line too. Like the past 5 years, like they've taken the most
hmm
offensive linemen in the first 3 rounds of each draft.
hmm yeah, and so like, and then like I don't know, I feel like schematically, Darren Waller doesn't seem to be focal enough of a point on that offense as well that I think people are really expecting with this. And I think a big part of that is the fact that because the offensive line is playing so bad, I mean, I didn't see the game, but I'm assuming that they're requiring him to do a lot of like chipping on like pass rushers, which ends up slowing his route. And so then, like, by the time he gets out on his route, the rest of the offensive line's already collapsed to the point where he's not even into his route. And Daniel Jones is getting sacked and he's getting hit, he's getting pressured regardless. And so, um,
I
it's
didn't
like,
see a lot of chipping when I was watching the game. Like
yeah,
I saw him being more spread out wide, but it's
yeah,
kind of just like you don't see Jones like scanning the fields like
hmm
quickly in the second. Like with CJ Stroud, you see that.
hmm
You could
yeah,
clearly see that. But with like him, like it's just like he's going. You could tell he's going on the scheme. Like here's my one, here's my two.
hmm
But like he's going through it like slowly, not to the point where like you saw Justin Fields early in the
Mhm.
season overthinking, but like you
Mhm.
could see like it's not like there's no sense of urgency with that, and I think that's like the huge problem because you got to keep in mind like each football player is like 4 or 5 seconds. You don't have that long as a cornerback to cover.
Mhm.
You don't have that long as a quarterback to make a decision because
Mhm.
most edge rushers will win within 4 to 5 seconds.
Mhm.
So like you gotta be quick with how you process
Mhm.
read and things like that.
Yeah. Yeah, but I think his offensive line certainly hasn't done him any favors. I mean, I think you even look at last week where there was a play, what Nick Bosa came in completely unblocked to get him, and I'm like,
That was
of
disgusting.
all the defensive linemen for the Giants offensive line to key in on, how do you like leave Bosa unblocked? And so I think the biggest issue likely here is offensive line. Despite them investing in it, offensive line is certainly, I think, a bigger weakness than Daniel Jones is, at least in the current stage of this offense that they have. Because I mean, we saw like when Saquon's healthy and Daniel Jones has some time to like do things, they can play at least decent football. But we're seeing here that like the offensive line took a big step back. Obviously, missing Saquon sucks, but um,
And I think the one thing they're missing is the number one wide receiver too. Like
mhm,
just like we discussed with the Patriots, like if they had that,
mhm,
I feel like that would help somewhat with the
mhm,
development of Jones. But like I'm looking at it from a season like standpoint of like you've had this QB for 4 years now. You
mhm,
invested so much of money into him.
mhm,
Like that's why I'm disappointed. Like obviously, like I think you've seen something when you invest that much money into him. So maybe you're right. Maybe it's a thing of situation.
mhm,
I'm just looking at things within like Daniel Jones's control
mhm.
where like he has not progressed from that.
Yeah, but yeah. But at least for me, that wraps up all I got mostly for this. I mean, we talked a little about the Seahawks defense, but
Oh, quick
um,
thing. Who you got
oh yeah,
Thursday night?
oh
Commanders or Bears?
Commanders.
Dang it. Well, why did I expect anything else? But yeah, I got the Bears. This is purely from the heart. I don't want them to go 0-5. I think this is the one game they can win within their
Mhm,
control because their offense was clicking on Sunday. Short turnaround, they
mhm,
should be fine. But as far
yeah.
as offense, I hope they're fine at least.
Mhm,
But I'm ready to get my heart broken on that.
mhm. Yeah, but again, thanks for tuning in. If you stayed this long, remember to follow us on our Instagram at amon.a.mission. Um, we'll post updates when we can. Obviously, I'm busy with school right now, so just trying to get things in. But Josh has obviously been a baller. He's been keeping things up. But see you next time. Peace out.
See you guys.